Awesome. All right. Well, it's really great to have all of you. We did not have Science Olympiad in my school, unfortunately. I'm sure I would have done it as a competitor because it's pretty awesome. So our training should go pretty quickly today here, and then you're welcome to stay at the end if you have any questions. We'll also leave you an email address if you have any further questions for us. So I'm just going to start because we have a few people who are kind of new to Science Olympiad, just with an overview of what Science Olympiad is. Let me get going here. All right, so Science Olympiad is a STEM competition. It's held all across the country. It's headquartered in Chicago. This year we have 60 teams from 36 communities competing in Montana Science Olympiad. They're coming from all over the state. We're a little bit down from our live tournament. The last one we had was in fall of 2019 before COVID. We did lose a few teams this year because of that, but we still will have well over 600 kids on campus next Friday. The events cover the whole range of STEM, biology, earth and space science, chemistry, physics, technology, and engineering. And there are three different types of events. One is core knowledge, which typically is kind of a pencil and paper test where you've been researching a topic and then testing your knowledge on that topic. A building event is where students make something ahead of time and then bring it to the competition and test it here. And a lab competition has more hands-on stations where you might be running an experiment or doing something on site. And then sometimes the events are kind of a combination of those two different types. In Montana, we run a middle school competition that's called Division B and a high school competition that's C. We run 14 events in each division. At the national level, they actually have, I think, 23 different events. We just don't have a big enough space and enough people to run all those events, so we do a subset of those. The students compete in a team of up to 15 students. Some schools actually bring two teams, a varsity and a junior varsity team. And then those team members are usually competing in between 2 and 4 different events. Most of the events are for 2 students working together. A couple of them are for 3 students. And then occasionally a student will compete in an event just by themselves. So basically the students are competing in their events and they're trying to earn a medal in that particular event. But then the points that they earn in the event accumulate into a team score. And so teams that are competing in a lot of events are actually trying to win the overall team trophy. And what's great is that it really is a team. These kids are supported by their entire communities, by their schools, by their coaches and their parents. It's really a cool opportunity for these schools. So just a little bit more about why students want to do Science Olympiad. We find that it really increases their interest in STEM, and often that's for students who would not even say that they're STEM students. They develop pride for being involved and self-esteem. It's great for our teachers as a complement to their classroom activities. And since schools are essentially competing against one another, it really strengthens that school spirit as you represent your school. The students are studying really hard. If you haven't ever done this before, I think you're going to be pretty impressed at the amount of work that they've put into getting ready. Sometimes they're studying college level textbooks. Sometimes they're making an entire binder that they've researched on a topic. So they're researching, they're writing, and it really is a great thing for them to include on college applications. A lot of people are very familiar with Science Olympiad and will recognize what a commitment that is to be on a team. So here at MSU, we host the state tournament. This year it's on Friday, April 15th, next Friday. That is University Day, and we have no classes. That's going to be interesting. We've never held it on University Day before. So on the one hand, it's easy for us to get reservations to labs and classrooms. It's going to be easier to park. But we also know that some people have gone away for the weekends. It's been a little bit harder to get volunteers. That's why we're extra grateful to everybody here. So our teams will start checking in at the sub as early as 7 or 7:30. The competition period is from 8:30 to 12:30. Then we quickly tabulate all those scores and do an award ceremony starting at 2:30. So as I mentioned before, we do give medals for first, second, and third place in each event. Some of those students are competing in multiple events. So at the end of the day, you'll see some kids with several medals around their necks. And then we have overall trophies for the top teams at middle school and high school. We also give a trophy for a small schools division. Some of our schools are really, really small. I mean, just maybe 40 students in the entire school, and they're bringing a team for Science Olympiad. The overall winners will compete at the national tournament, which this year, unfortunately, is virtual, and it is hosted by Caltech. So this is just a quick overview of the events that we're running this year. Some of you have already been recruited by an event supervisor and you probably know which event you're doing. Others of you have kind of given us your preference. We will be making those assignments really early next week and let you know your time slot and what event you'll be working on. There are three different types of event scheduling. The one that is the most common is where students are taking their contest in a 50-minute block. There's one at 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, and 11:30. So one example might be the solar system contest for middle schoolers. One group of students come in at 8:30, does their contest, another at 9:30, and so on. Some of the events, often those that are more of the building nature, have a walk-in schedule. So students will come in and sign up for a slot when they're going to come back and test their airplane or their vehicle or their bridge. Or sorry, that was the sign up actually, the next one. Some is just a walk-in schedule where students come and wait to do theirs. Some events have what's called an impound, and that is where the students actually leave their car or airplane or device in a special place prior to the competition. And that's basically so they're not walking around and examining other students' contraptions and getting ideas and then making theirs better. Everybody's kind of on the same level playing field. So even if you're not testing your bridge until 11:30, you still have to impound it with the other ones. And then some events allow spectators, those again are typically the building events. The testing events typically do not have spectators. This is just to show you the schedule that our coaches get. You don't have to worry about this in any way, but it kind of shows you how we give the coaches the assignments for the different teams as they move throughout the day. This I wanted to share with you. This is not something that you have to worry about necessarily as a volunteer, but this is what our student competitors sign. So every student who competes in Science Olympiad has signed what they call a code of ethics. It shows that they will be fair to other competitors, they will be honest, they will follow all the safety rules. One that's kind of important is they may not leave the event area without the judge's permission. And this is basically to keep somebody from going out of the room and checking something on a phone. You as a volunteer may be asked to kind of monitor some of that. Students cannot receive external assistance on their test and they can't use cell phones. For some of the events, they can use a calculator, others they cannot, and the event supervisor will know what they can and they cannot. So now this is the important part for you as volunteers. This is basically the code that you are abiding by when you agree to help with Science Olympiad. So, and I am going to read these because they're very important. So number one is that we offer a safe and welcoming environment. We want to uphold the values of Science Olympiad, which ensures a safe environment for all students, regardless of their sex, gender identity, sexual orientation, race, religion, nationality, disability, status, or culture. Safety is number one after that. We'll follow all safety precautions. Some of the events require teams to wear goggles or an apron or to have their hair tied back. And again, the event supervisors will know what that is. But for the goggles, for instance, if students have to wear lab goggles and they're not wearing them, they're not able to compete. They'll have to go get them from the bookstore, from their coach or whatever. We want to support fair play by students and teams. It's very rare when we see anything that's dishonest. If anything, it's just by accident. But still, we really hope our students are doing everything to be honest and supporting the decision of the event supervisor. You as a volunteer need to avoid practicing or discussing risk-taking behaviors in the presence of students, parents, or other volunteers. An instance may be, say you're kind of waiting around and talking to another volunteer and you start talking about a party that you went to over the weekend. Some of our kids are as young as 11 or 12 years old, so just keep aware of what they might overhear you saying. The second to last one is really important. That's at the national level and for MSU. We follow a never alone policy when interacting with students. That is for their protection, but also for yours. Just if you ever find yourself, and I don't think you will because this is a pretty big group event, but just don't find yourself in a situation where you're the only adult with a student. Just make sure you're always with another volunteer, with the event supervisor, with a teacher. There's a lot of people around, so just pay attention to that. And then lastly, if you see anything that's dangerous, physically or psychologically, please let us know. I'm the tournament director. I'll be around at the sub and all throughout. So please find me or one of the other members of our staff and let them know. It's really important that we're safe and welcoming for all the students. This I have to read to you too. You'll see a little bit of overlap here. This is specifically MSU's guidelines for working with children. So again, that first one is very similar to the never alone policy. You would just want to work in an open environment so you're not alone with a child. Maintain a safe and appropriate distance from participants. This one comes into play more when we're working with the really young kids who sometimes want to cling onto your leg if you're a camp counselor or something like that. You just want to be careful to set those limits with the participants. I don't think you're going to get any high schoolers who are wanting to cling or hang on you, but just wanted to make you aware. If any form of manual or physical support is required, it should be provided respectfully and in the presence of others. You want to be an excellent ambassador for MSU. Again, this was mentioned earlier. It includes being engaged in and paying attention to the competition. Don't swear in the company of young people and be a good role model for cell phone use. You want to prohibit hazing or bullying by participants, staff, or volunteers. I've not seen that ever happen in this competition. It's really a very friendly competition, but if you see something, you want to help out with that. And then definitely contact us immediately if a child is injured or appears distressed in any manner, or if any other problem arises. So I want to tell you a little bit about what this will be like for you on tournament day, because I knew we have quite a few new people here. So depending on what type of event you're with, you might be measuring devices, weighing, you might have a tape measure to see how far a trajectory goes. You might help an event judge check a car to see have they only used one rubber band or two paper clips or whatever the specifications may be. You might be setting up different lab stations to help an event supervisor. You might be fetching items if that's something you can do. Occasionally they'll say, oh my gosh, I ran out of whatever, can you help me? You might be calculating scores, you might be grading tests, you might be involved in safety checks. And again, that's kind of what I mentioned. If students have to wear lab goggles or do something specifically, the event supervisor might ask you to just kind of check for that. They may also ask you to ask for any rules violations. One that may come into play, different contests allow students to bring materials with them. Sometimes that might be one sheet front and back, and they can write really, really tiny to fill that one sheet. Other times they might be allowed an entire 3-ring binder. If you're in a contest where you only get one sheet and you bring a binder, that's not okay. So these are just some of the things that you might be watching for. And then I did want to mention wristbands. Every student competitor will have a wristband. They should have that wristband on in order to compete. So you might be asking them to show me your wristband. On the wristband is a number, and that number represents their team. When students write their name on their test, they'll also be asked to write their team number. A lot of times the students don't know what their team number is, so you might want to remind them, it's on your wristband, it's right here. So just be sure to write that name down or write that number down. Here's a little bit more for tournament day. So you will be getting your assignment early next week, and we do hope that you'll be on time and to the right place. If you can't make it, if something comes up, definitely let us know as soon as you can. We have a special email, and I think we'll also leave a cell phone number with you too when we send you your assignment. When you get to your location, you're going to check in and out with the event supervisor. That's the judge. Just let them know that you're there. Please bring and be prepared to show a photo identification. That's just, again, another safety precaution. You can wear, oh, sorry about that. You can wear pretty much whatever you like, just clean, comfortable clothes. Sometimes you might be moving around quite a lot, so just wear something that's comfortable for you. And then we do ask, to the extent that you're able, to help students find their contests. Some of them will have never been to MSU before. And although they kind of prepare ahead of time and think about, okay, I'm over here, now I have to go over here, you might just be called upon to help them find their way. A little bit more about tournament day. We ask you to wear a name tag and we will have a Science Olympiad t-shirt for you. I do want to warn, we've had some supply chain issues with t-shirts. I think everything is okay, but it's just been a little tough this year to get stuff all around. We ask you to be positive, punctual, and professional, limit your cell phone use. You can sure answer kids' questions about MSU or about college in general. We'd love to see them here someday. We do provide you with a lunch token, and we have a room at the sub where there are snacks. But sometimes things get going pretty crazy, and you can't always get there quite when you want to. So you may want to have a water bottle with you and some snacks, just to cover that. And then just be proud to represent MSU. A lot of these kids truly do end up coming to MSU, so it's pretty fun for them to meet you and just get a really nice impression of our university. I think we're in the home stretch here. Let's see. So these are the contest locations. Again, you don't need to know where all of these are. We will help you know where your contest is. But just in case you are in a position of helping students find things, several contests are in the sub. One is in Schroyer Gym. And if you've been up in that area, Schroyer Gym is in the fitness center, the one that is being torn down right now. So we're actually going to have students enter off of 11th Avenue. It's going to be a little bit confusing. Same for Brick Breed and Fieldhouse. They're going to go up 11th and into the Fieldhouse. This is where I think kids might be most confused. Cobley Hall is to the east of the sub in the engineering building complex over there. Gaines Hall is kind of next to Romney. And then other locations around campus. Again, you don't have to know all of these, but if you're able to help a student on their way, they'll sure appreciate it. Miscellaneous, you will get your assignment early next week. That will come to you by email. If there are any conflicts, like for instance, if you said I can work from 10 to noon and then suddenly you have a change, just let us know as soon as possible. We have about 100 volunteers, so we can do some shifting, but we always appreciate when you can do what we assign to you. I wrote follow sanitation and health guidelines as you are able. Right now, there are not any full COVID restrictions at MSU as far as wearing a mask. There will be students wearing masks, and just you do what is most comfortable for you. If you want to wear a mask, that's totally fine. We'll have hand sanitizer at the contest. It is not possible to keep students 6 feet away from each other, but we'll just do everything we can to keep everybody safe. So as a volunteer, you will get 1,000 champ change points. We'll have a way for you to check in at your event. As I mentioned, you will get a lunch token. We'll have snacks. There's a hospitality room in the sub, and you will get a t-shirt. We are still recruiting volunteers. We'll be doing that pretty much right up until about next Wednesday. So if you have any friends who want to volunteer and haven't signed up yet, definitely let us know or take down that link right there. Think we are at the, oh, actually, this is one last slide. We will send this to you in your email, and this is really only if you want to go deep into Science Olympiad. If you get assigned your event and you're like, hey, I have no idea what the Mousetrap Vehicle event is like, you can check out the rules manual on the National Science Olympiad website. It's pretty cool actually to see what the students have been working off of and what rules they've been studying. There's even a special section that shows rules changes that come up. There are scoring guidelines and score sheets. And again, this is truly just if you want to nerd out on Science Olympiad. You do not have to know all this stuff as a volunteer. It's really only if you kind of want to go next level on learning more about Science Olympiad. This is the Science Olympiad website. I put a big red arrow that points to the menu in the upper left. That's where you'll find all of these things if you want to go to the National Science Olympiad website. Okay, that is it. Feng Zhen Lao is our volunteer coordinator. The email that you get next week will come from her. I'm Susie Taylor. My email's here. Asan Salam is another member of our team. And then we have a special email set up just for volunteers. It's MTSO, Montana Science Olympiad at montana.edu. So I'm going to stop screen sharing here and see if there are any questions. And thank you again for being volunteers. It's really awesome. I think you're going to have a great time. It's fun to see the kids. They worked so hard. Some of them have never been to MSU or to a city as big as Bozeman before. So it's really fun to interact with those kids and welcome them. If you have any questions, you can use the chat or you can unmute or raise your hand or whatever you like.
Hi, Susie. This is Jennifer Brecky. I have a quick question.
Hi, Jen.
Hey, so where is there a specific place we all check in and then we go to our buildings from there?
Oh, yes. Thank you for asking that question. You, all of you, whether you're an event supervisor, kind of as you are, Jennifer, and other volunteers, can go directly to the location of your event. You do not have to come to the headquarters at the sub, although you sure can. If you need anything or you have questions, we will be there right outside the sub ballrooms with a big registration desk. But you don't have to do that. You can go directly to the location of your event. So, Jen, you'll be in the field house. So if it's easiest just to go there, that's totally fine.
Okay. And then what about parking?
Oh yeah, what about parking? I will connect with you directly on that one. It's
Okay.
it's yeah, it's a little bit tricky, so thank you for mentioning that.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Or if someone's been a volunteer for a long time, I'm actually fairly new to Science Olympiad myself, so if I missed anything that other people have covered before, feel free to shout it out. Bill, I think you have the most history probably of any of us with Science Olympiad.
Most of my memories of Science Olympiad are running around taking pictures and being completely exhausted by the end of the day. I know that in the past we had, I think it was Avogadro that we were using to put the scores up. I believe we are doing something different this year, isn't that right?
Yeah, Avogadro is a scoring software that we used and always had to pay for. Recently, a Science Olympiad alumnus who's a computer scientist designed a software specifically for Science Olympiad. It's called Scilympiad. As volunteers, your event supervisor may ask for some help entering scores into Scilympiad. Probably not, but just if you hear about that software, that's what we use for scoring. And we used it last year when we did an online virtual tournament. All of the contests took place in Scilympiad. This year, we're just using it for scoring.
Okay.
All righty. Well, that is it. I will hang out a few minutes if anybody wants to hang out and talk over their questions. I can hang out and talk to you personally, but that's the end of our formal volunteer training. We sure appreciate you being here. Remember, MTSO at montana.edu. That's our volunteer email hotline. If anything comes up or you have somebody else you'd like to volunteer, you can send them our way. All right, thanks everybody. Well, I may not see you next week. You'll be in locations all over the place, but if I do see you in person, huge thank you. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Thank
Susie.
you.